In this video, lances will be leveled, swords will clash, and in the end, a champion will arise in an epic showdown with the Black Knight. Who will it be? Let's find out. In this episode, we're playing Full Tilt, the Warhammer Jousting Game. In my last video, we went through the process of preparing the tournament grounds. We assembled a huge crowd of medieval citizens, built some stands for the spectators, built a viewing box for the nobility, made a tilting barrier, and explored some of the history behind medieval tournaments. Today, we're bringing it all together in an epic jousting extravaganza. First, let's talk about the rules of engagement. Full Tilt is a game published in issue 215 of White Dwarf magazine back in 1998, and it was written by the great Nigel Stillman, a legendary character who's perhaps best known for his Still Mania, a philosophy of sportsmanship for approaching Warhammer. It's full of great points like, always let your opponent have the benefit of the doubt, and give every character and regiment a name. And what's another one? Put 3 coats of gloss varnish. Okay, most of them are good ideas. But the point is, Stillmania is about fun, sportsmanship, and backstory. And that's the spirit that the Full Tilt rules were written in. And that's also my favorite type of wargame to play, full of fun moments and great memories. So let's jump right into it. Now before any great tournament, the heralds travel far and wide and invite the greatest knights to compete. In this tournament, we'll be pitting 2 teams against each other. The red team, which will be controlled by my wife Anna.
Hello.
And the blue team, which will be controlled by me. Each team is 6 of the most esteemed knights in the whole kingdom, held on the herald's rolls as being worthy of the great honor of competing. The Full Tilt rules echo the structure of a real medieval tournament, but with a few added fun fantasy elements as well. The competition is split into 3 phases: the pageant of honor, the joust, and the tableau de bataille, where the victorious knights from the jousting phase face off against the Black Knight, a mysterious challenger that any chivalrous knight must feel duty-bound to unmask and defeat. The first phase is kind of like an opening ceremony. The knights parade around the tournament grounds, introductions are made by the heralds, and in this fantasy version, the knights are also inspected for magical items, which would of course be unchivalrous to use. Anyways, once everyone is inspected for magic items, the knights ask for tokens of favor from the spectating ladies. Now these items are not magic, but just traditionally seen to be lucky. To see if your knight gains a lady's favor, you roll a 2d6 and consult a chart. If you have doubles, you get an item of favor, which allow you to re-roll dice later in the game. My knights are apparently lacking in the charisma department because they got no ladies' favors, but Anna's knights were able to get 2 veils and a wimple from the crowd. If you're wondering what a wimple is, it's one of these medieval ladies' headdresses. What do you think, Anna?
I like it.
Speaking of rare and interesting pieces of clothing, if you want to support the channel, I have a new t-shirt design available on my Etsy. It's designed by the talented Martin Treese, and it's a really cool piece of fantasy art, and I really dig it a lot. Check it out if you're interested. There'll be a link in the description below. With these ladies' favors in place, the pageant of honor concludes, and the knights are ready for day 2, the joust. To prepare for the joust, the tilting barrier is set up in the center of the tourney grounds. Each team draws one of the shield tokens, numbered 1 through 6, to determine which of their knights will face off. And the jousting begins. I'm going to use the first 2 I've drawn here to show you guys how to play. The first knights we drew were Guillaume de Poole, a knight that I based off my stepbrother, and the bull-crested Fetche la Vache.
Fetche la Vache! Quoi? Fetche la Vache!
The knights are set up on opposite sides of the tilting barrier, with their shields closest to the barrier. In real-world jousting, this is actually a safety feature of sorts. By having to angle your lance across the barrier from the far side, the lance is more likely to break and less likely to penetrate your opponent's armor and kill him. Granted, it's still very dangerous, but when riding full tilt against another fully armored man, you take all the safety features you can get. A lance will only break with a very good clean hit, so breaking a lance is a good thing. Now the goal of the joust is of course to knock your opponent out of the saddle and into the dirt, but failing that, in Full Tilt rules, whoever breaks the most lances in 3 passes will win the tilt, eliminating his opponent from the competition. Even a broken lance can be a dangerous one. In the real world, King Henry II of France was killed when a shard of broken lance flew through the visor of his helmet in 1559. With our knights set up and ready to tilt, each player chooses a specific jousting ploy, representing their strategy for this pass. You can choose to aim to your opponent's shield, aim for his crest, aim for his helmet, swipe, or dodge. Each of these ploys is represented on a card, and these different ploys will modify your attacks according to what is written on them. Place them both face down, then once they're committed, they're revealed simultaneously, and the horses spring forward, and the joust is on. The knights roll to hit and wound each other just like they would in a game of Warhammer Fantasy. The order of attacks is decided by the ploys used by the knights. In our first tilt, I chose to aim for the helm, while Anna chose to aim for the shield. In the top left of the cards, you can see the order of the priority the ploys take. A knight aiming at the shield will strike before a knight aiming at the helm, which makes sense since the shield is a closer, larger target. First, you have to roll to see if you hit your opponent. With each of all the participants being highly skilled knights with a weapon skill of 4, they all hit on 4+, meaning on a roll of 1 6-sided dice, a 4, 5, or 6 represents a strike that lands true, whereas a 1, 2, or 3 would mean that your lance has gone wide and missed your opponent. Anna rolled a 6, which is a hit. If you score a hit, you must roll to see if your hit has enough force to wound. To do this, compare the strength value of the attacking knight with the toughness value of the defending knight. Both are 4, so it'll be another 4+ to wound. If you score a wound, congratulations, you have broken your lance on your opponent. Anna rolled a 5, scoring a wound and breaking a lance. The stricken knight now has a chance to save themselves from taking damage with what's called an armor save. The saving throw for each knight is once again 4+. If the armor save is passed, a broken lance is still scored. I rolled a 2, failing my armor save. This means that I must now roll another dice to see if I've fallen off my horse. If I roll a 3 or lower, my knight has fallen out of the saddle and is defeated. If I roll higher, the knight takes 1 wound. Each knight has 2 wounds, and if a knight loses both, then they fall off the saddle automatically. I rolled a 1, which means my knight tumbles from the saddle without even a chance to strike back. My knight Lavash limps off to the loser's tavern, while Anna's knight goes to the winner's circle to await tomorrow's showdown. If I had remained in the saddle, I would have had a chance to attack back, and that would have been 1 pass. As I mentioned before, each joust is composed of 3 passes, and whoever breaks the most lances or remains in the saddle emerges victorious. If both knights are still seated after the first pass, they turn their horses around and prepare to ride at each other for the second course. This turning movement, or tournée, is the movement that the word tournament is derived from. So now that you know the basics, let's get this tourney on with. In the second tilt, my knight Jean Sanglier faced off against Hugo Le Pagasse, eager to even the score. After 2 tense passes where the competitors failed to break lances, on the third pass, Sir Sanglier dealt a mighty blow to the helm of Le Pagasse, sending him flying from his stirrups to land in a crumpled heap on the ground. Can I just point out how nice the shield is on Sanglier? I'm really proud of that bore. I used a Micron pen for that, by the way. It's 1-1. Anna was not playing around, and she struck back in the next round as her Henri Croissant faced off against my Georges Le Bâtard. The confident Le Bâtard tried to showboat by knocking the crest off Croissant's helmet, but sadly he missed and was smashed out of the saddle in the first pass by a tremendous blow to the helm by the powerful Croissant. 2-1 Anna. Next up, Maurice de Patois faced off against Pierre Jean Vert. After a tense and evenly matched opening course that saw both competitors break lances, Jean Vert, Anna's champion, who had the coveted knightly jousting virtue, used his superior skill to knock de Patois from the saddle with a perfectly placed shot to the shield. 3-1 Anna. Next, the haughty Grail Knight Guy Le Mans faced off against my champion, Enguerrand Côté. Using his dazzling skill, Côté knocked off the elaborate crest off Le Mans' helmet, sending the gilded hand sailing into the crowd, a flamboyant feat that counts for 2 broken lances. The crowd were delighted, but Le Mans was not. He raked his spurs hard into his horse for the final course, but the nimble Côté ducked beneath it, laughing all the while. It was perhaps not the most honorable win, but the crowd loved it. That's another one for Eric. 3-2 Anna. In the final tilt of the jousting competition, Anna's dashing young knight errant Guy Sandor faced off against my pure and virtuous Griffe de Lion. Emboldened by the fragrant wimple that Sandor had tied around his arm, he defeated Griffe de Lion 2-1 on broken lances, giving Anna 1 more win. The day's final score is 4-2 for Anna, but it's not over yet. On the final day of the competition, the surviving knights from the first round will face off 1 by 1 against the Black Knight, a mysterious figure with black livery and a black shield. Before we get in this stage, I'm going to need to build a suitable knight to represent the Black Knight in the tournament. I'm going to base it around the Green Knight, which is an iconic miniature from the Bretonnian range. The Green Knight has the most amazing horse, with this intricate layered caparison and an epic rearing pose. But I've always had one issue with this miniature though, and that's the helmet. The style of helmet that it has is called a barbute, and it's an Italian helmet from the 15th century that echoes the helmet designs of antiquity. The rest of the Bretonnian range wear great helms that were popular between the 12th and 14th centuries, so it just doesn't fit very well to me. It will, however, match my Renaissance-inspired Dogs of War army quite nicely, so I'll save that bit for them. If you want to see some more Dogs of War content in the future, make sure you're subscribed and let me know down in the comments below. I was about to saw the head off my jeweler's saw and I got cold feet. I feel a little bit strange about cutting into a classic old mini sometimes, especially when it's the metal version and not the Swinecast version, so let's just build this knight from some bare knight bits and leave the green knight body intact. So first things first, we need a lance. The green knight holds a sword, but this is a joust. So I've got a few options, and I ended up choosing the one from one of my Pegasus knights, which is extended at full reach and gives a really epic pose to it. According to the full tilt rules, the black knight wears black armor, a black surcoat, and carries a black shield bearing no blazon by which he can be recognized. Nobody knows the true identity of the knight who plays the role of the black knight. All that you can be sure of is that he will be a knight of great renown and martial prowess. It could be the Duke himself, the best knight in the Duke's retinue, or a hermit grail knight from a remote grail chapel somewhere in the dukedom. According to legend, sometimes the King of Bretonnia himself has played the role of the Black Knight in the tournament at Couronne. Each knight who is victorious in the previous day's jousts will go against the Black Knight in turn, with the order decided randomly, just like before. This time, however, it's not simply a joust, but a proper fight, with the last man standing as the victor. The Black Knight has a formidable stats profile, but his wounds are cumulative, meaning that it could be advantageous to face him later in the day, but if you're too late, he might be felled by a prior competitor who steals all the glory. Whoever finally unhorses the Black Knight by taking his final wound is the winner of the day. I give my Black Knight a simple paint job, and voila, an appropriate foil for the tableau de bataille according to the full tilt rules. But let's get the tableau de bataille underway. The first to test the Black Knight's mettle was the impetuous Jean Sanglier. Roaring with anger, Sanglier savagely spurred towards the Black Knight, but the mysterious champion deflected Sanglier's lance with his shield, his own lance striking Sanglier so hard in the center of his breastplate that Sanglier's saddle straps broke as he went flying to the ground. The Black Knight claims his first victim. Next up, fan favorite Guy Sandor returning to the field to thunderous applause. Sandor struck a vicious blow to the Black Knight in the initial charge, sending one of the Black Knight's pauldrons spinning away with his terrible force. The Black Enigma was not done though, and discarded his lance, pulling out a Morning Star that he wielded in a relentless attack, smashing Sandor's shield to ruins and then eventually battering the young knight errant from the saddle. The heralds introduced Guillaume de Poole, the next challenger. As pure and virtuous a knight as ever lived, de Poole charged in with a lance leveled. The Black Knight met his charge, but neither lance landed cleanly. Lances discarded, they circled each other in the center of the field, de Poole warding off savage blows from the Black Knight's Morning Star and interposing cuts of his own with his sword. The Black Knight fought with a savage speed and skill, but de Poole rose to the occasion wonderfully, giving as good as he got. Both competitors' armor was battered and dented, when all at once the sun moved from behind a cloud, casting a brilliant ray of light from behind Poole into the Black Knight's visor, momentarily blinding him. Poole seized the opportunity, and with 3 mighty slashes of his blade, he rang the Black Knight's helm like a bell. The Black Knight slumped from the saddle unconscious, and the crowd erupted in a tremendous cheer. A champion had triumphed over the Black Knight, and the auspicious sunburst in those final moments was seen as a good omen and blessing by all. Well, there you have it, guys. The tournament has concluded. Guillaume de Poole is our champion, and since he was one of my wife's knights, I guess that means that Anna won the day. Congratulations, sweetheart.
Woo! This was fun.
I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, consider joining my Patreon. We'll see you next time on Eric's Hobby Workshop.